האחרון התחלנו עשרות מנהרות טרור, ואנחנו נחושים להשלים משימה זאת, עם או בלי הפסקת אש.
None of this appears to me to be accidental.
Good evening, you're watching I-24 News. I'm Meredith Ross, and today is day 24 of Operation Protective Edge. The death toll in the operation is mounting steadily. Gaza officials say the Palestinian death toll is close to 1,400 people, with 7,000 wounded. Israel's fatalities stand at 56 soldiers and 3 civilians. And as the number of fatalities grows, the United Nations has accused both Israel and Hamas of committing war crimes. Israel especially has come into criticism for attacks on an UNRWA school where Palestinians had sought refuge. Meanwhile, as truce efforts go nowhere, the fighting is continuing. Israeli troops in the Gaza Strip are continuing to search for Hamas tunnels, and Hamas continues to launch rockets at Israel. One which hit southern Israel a short while ago wounded 5 people. Another hit the southern town of Kiryat Gat this afternoon, landed between 2 apartment buildings, wounding 3 people, one of them seriously. And joining us now in studio is senior defense correspondent for Haaretz, Amir Oren. Thank you for being here. I-24 News senior Middle East analyst Ali Waqed.
Good evening.
Thank you, Ali. And Dr. Ronen Hoffman, a member of the Israeli parliament who sits on its Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee. Thank you very much for being here. And also tonight on this special edition, we have a live studio from the southern Israeli city of Ashkelon, where our evening edition anchors are sitting ready, and we will be passing it on to them. Hello, are you there?
Bonsoir à tous, nous sommes ensemble ici ce soir en direct d'Ashkelon dans le sud d'Israël pour une édition spéciale sur I-24 News.
أسعدتم مساء مشاهدينا، أهلا بكم في تغطية خاصة من هنا من قلب مدينة أشكلون جنوبية إسرائيل. سوف نكون معكم بعد قليل.
Good evening to this special edition of the news today from the city of Ashkelon in the south of Israel, and we will be with you for the next 3 hours. Just stay with us.
And thank you to Lucy, Nadine, and John Shah. We will be returning to them shortly. Now, Amir, I do want to start with you. What's the latest on the ground in Gaza?
The latest on the ground is that fighting is going on, but within the same perimeter which the Israeli forces established several days ago, and they are working on the tunnels. If they find more tunnels, they will demolish them too. But until such time, they are concentrating on what they found already, and they estimate that within the next 48 hours or so, the work will be done. And as far as the forward echelon is concerned, they will be ready to withdraw. Of course, it is up to the government to decide.
And Dr. Hoffman, we've been hearing this for many, almost weeks now. The government feels like they're only 48 hours to 3 days away from demolishing all of the tunnels, but clearly that hasn't been the case. This operation is going on. Is that because they're finding more tunnels, or is this a distraction method?
Well, I understand it's for both. First of all, the tunnels that they have found already, it takes time to destroy. And while being there and having some Hamas terrorists captured in Israel, they probably find more information about new tunnels as well.
Mm-hmm. And also regarding the tunnels, these aren't new. Israel has found these tunnels in previous operations. What's to say that they won't be dug again and again and again?
Well, of course, when we will reach a point where there will be a ceasefire and then a long-term kind of arrangement, the tunnel issue, one of, among others, of course, will have to be taken care of. So I believe that the arrangement will include the issue of tunnels as well.
Meredith, if I may show you, look at my arm. This is a tunnel, but the tunnel, now look at my hand, at my fingers. These are the various exits from the tunnel. And if you append another hand to my shoulder, just figuratively, you will see that there are several entrances to the tunnel. So the soldiers looking for the tunnels have to find both the tunnel itself and the various exits and entrances. It's a very, very industrious work. It has to be done 24 hours a day under difficult conditions, sometimes under fire, but they are working at it, and within the next 48 hours or so, they will finish it.
And Ali, now turning to the Palestinian side, Israel has said that Hamas has been dealt a major blow throughout this entire operation. Is that true? Is that how people are feeling in Gaza?
No, the people are feeling that Gaza was maybe destroyed by the Hamas, still in not its best shape, but in good shape, a shape that enabled Hamas to keep fighting against Israel. The military wing of Hamas believes that it had delivered good results in this confrontation that can allow the political level of Hamas to negotiate a better arrangement, a better conditions for Hamas. And I heard Dr. Hoffman talking about a long-term arrangement. The way that the negotiations are running until now, nobody thinks, nobody speaks on the terms of long-term arrangement. If we want Hamas to be, if for the moment Israel and Egypt do not want that Hamas would be part of this arrangement, so in any case it won't be a long-term arrangement. This is one. The second thing is that within Hamas, the political level is willing to achieve some understanding that will reach a ceasefire, but the military wing of Hamas is insisting on keeping fighting. Of course, for the military wing, the fact that 1,400 civilians, 1,400 people were killed and thousands of houses and infrastructures in Gaza were demolished is not something to be taken into consideration. They are judging that they are fighting the Israeli army, the biggest army. They are publishing almost 24/7 different videos from the tunnels, from the Nahal Oz, Israeli in the north, in the south, in the center, running to the shelters, and they believe
this is affecting the general population. They're giving them this view that they're crushing Israel in a way.
Hamas is in a kind of a problem. On one hand, the people in the street want a ceasefire. They want to get back to a normal life. But on the other hand, both the people in the street and, of course, Hamas think that if the life of the Gazans at the end of this operation won't change, meaning that if the blockade won't be lifted and if there won't be any change in the entering and exiting of people from Egypt and to Egypt, merchandises, etc., the enlarging of the fishing space to the Gazans fishermen, and the release of the prisoners. So this round that cost so much, a heavy price to the people in Gaza, would be in vain. And this is why the military wing of Hamas is insisting on continuing. At any case, the last bullet to be shot, the last rocket to be shot, won't be an Israeli one.
I see. So they want to keep pushing. But Amir, also, I want to mention that 16,000 more reservists were called up today. What do we know? What units these men are from? Is this combat? Is this to relieve possibly some of the reservists that are currently have been serving for about 3 weeks now?
Up to now, no major combat units have been taken from the reserves. There are military as well as societal reasons for that. The regular troops are well trained, are well equipped, and they are almost trigger happy, while the reservists have other concerns in mind, even though they too will perform when ordered. So most of the reservists have been called and will be called to replace, first of all, the regular troops who were earlier stationed in the north or in the center, and the new reservists will probably replace old reservists who have been already in service for the last couple of weeks.
And we will revisit this topic, but we are going to see now a report about the southern city of Ashkelon, where our news anchors are currently tonight. It's a city that's been under heavy fire during this entire operation. Here's more.
Ashkelon, one of the world's oldest cities, lies on the Mediterranean coast of southern Israel, only 7 kilometers separated from the Gaza Strip. Since the start of Operation Protective Edge, 215 rockets have been fired at it. Of these, 126 were intercepted by the Iron Dome anti-missile system. 70 fell in unpopulated areas. 8 rockets landed inside the city, scoring direct hits on homes. Ashkelon today has a population of 132,000 people. Around 6,000 homes in the city have no suitable protection from the rockets. The city's Barzilai Medical Center was founded in 1961 and serves 500,000 people, both routinely and in times of emergency. The center has treated 1,010 wounded since the start of Operation Protective Edge. As of now, 39 wounded in the operation, including 37 soldiers, are hospitalized there. The damage to southern Israeli factories and businesses threatened by rockets stands at 330 million shekel, which comes to $96 million, or close to 72 million euros.
And like we promised, we are here in the south of Israel, in the city of Ashkelon. We just saw, of course, some numbers about what is happening and about the current situation in Ashkelon city. And the booms and the bombardments has always been heard here in the city because the Gaza Strip is just right behind us. It's not so far, basically two cities that are neighboring one next to the other and sharing the same shore. And right now I'm sharing this table with Eli Moyal. Good evening, a lawyer, and you're the former, maybe your most important role is the former mayor of the city of Sderot.
I was there in the beginning of all this stuff, you know. The first Qassam on earth landed in my backyard. It was in 2001. Since then, we had here at least 15,000 of Qassams landing in Sderot. So
listen, before we will continue, just with this point, I want just to present also Ashraf Al-Ajami, the former minister from the Fatah party for the prisoners' affairs. Let's talk with you, Ali. I want to start. You started saying that you know this story since the beginning.
Yeah.
The first Qassam, when it landed in your backyard, and maybe sometimes there's the feeling that Israel woke up a little bit too late, woke up 14 years later or 5 years later or 10 years later, and each and every time Israel gets into this round and forgets a little bit about the South and then gets back to the South. Should Israel finish the mission once and for all? Or can Israel finish the mission once and for all?
Must do it. Must. I believe because we fought, you know, we had 2 operations before, like a year and a half ago and 4 years ago. We're fighting right now because we didn't fight properly at that operation we have. This operation has to be ended by, there is no rockets in Gaza Strip, no Hamasnik living in Gaza Strip, no tunnel is in existence. If we don't bring this stuff to Israel, well, the Israeli government will have a big and tough time in Israel because they promised us that they will win terror, and now this is the time. Please, win the terror. This is the time.
I remember seeing you on TV all the time when Sderot is yet still in the front line. And maybe one of the biggest sentences that I remember from you is, you are forgetting about us. It seems that you abandoned the South and you are living in Tel Aviv and you don't know what it is to live here every day under the bombs and under sirens. And just to explain to the viewers each and every time, I'm trying to explain this, but just in Sderot and in the cities who are just right next to the Gaza Strip, you don't have 3 minutes, you have 15 seconds to get into a shelter. And this is almost maybe it's an impossible situation to live in.
Well, I'm not putting a blame on this government. I put in a blame on 5 or 6 governments before, because they didn't understand. They were stupid. Well, in the straight, they were stupid. I said it before. I said that if somebody cannot protect the road, he cannot protect Tel Aviv. He cannot protect Ashkelon. They were stupid. All those governments before, because I stood and I loud like hell. Please, if you are not preventing right now those the Qassams, one they'll get Fajr and R-75 and Rantisi and all that stuff we're getting right now. It was a mistake. This is the very, very time to correct these mistakes. We have nothing against Palestinians. Let me correct you. It's not part of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We're fighting against murderers, terrorists. It has nothing to do with Palestinians. Palestinians are Palestinians and murderers are murderers. We're going to kill those murderers to the last of them.
It got nothing to do with the Palestinians, Mr. Al-Ajrami, like we're hearing. It got to do with finishing the mission with Hamas, finishing the mission that Hamas is maybe basically doing in a wrong way. They control the Gaza Strip. They try to govern the Gaza Strip. They're not able to govern the Gaza Strip. And we're seeing that the money that they received, maybe part of it went to the civilian, but the major part of it went to buy arms and build tunnels. And this is not taking care of the Palestinians. How come the Palestinians are not understanding this?
I think they understand this. I think the problem is when the Israelis said that this is something not related to the Palestinians, but it is. Because when we are seeing now what happens in Gaza Strip, the majority of the people who are killed all the time, the majority, more than 75%, civilians.
So take them out from Gaza Strip for a while. Let us finish the job. Come on.
Yeah,
come on. They're protecting terrorism. They're protecting missiles. We call them. We knock them on the roofs. We send them SMS. Whatever you like. Please take them out for a while. Let us 2 weeks and we'll finish the job. We cannot touch the killers because of that innocent people you're talking about.
Okay. I don't think that the Israelis can win this war.
We can.
No.
We can.
No.
It will cost you a lot, but if we can. It's going to cost the Palestinians a very, very heavy price.
No, you can't win this war. I think the problem is not just a war between Israel and Hamas. The problem is the conflict.
No, it has nothing to do with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We're fighting terrorists.
If we don't find a solution for this conflict,
this
round can be returned in a very maybe stronger.
We won't negotiate Hamas. Forget it.
We don't want to
it's not Israeli.
Hamas.
It's not Israeli.
You must finish this this process with the President Mahmoud Abbas.
Let us as Palestinians take out the Hamas out of Gaza Strip and see what will happen.
They can't do this if the conflict continues.
If we will try to look at it from the diplomatic point of view that Mr. Al-Ajrami here is proposing, maybe the diplomatic solution is right now, because we're hearing military officials and they are saying that after 2, 3, 4, after a week, the military mission, the military targets will be reached, and then the government will have to take decision. The decision at the end of the day, we know that it will be either to conquer or reoccupy the Gaza Strip, or to go to a certain ceasefire, or to go to a certain deal. Maybe Israel also needs to wake up and start threatening President Abbas. Maybe it's time to give the keys to President Mahmoud Abbas and tell him, you know what, handle it. Handle the situation in the Gaza Strip. And
President Abbas cannot step in Gaza Strip. The first moment he'll step into Gaza Strip, he'll be dead within a few seconds. You know that. He knows that. All of the world say that. Come on. He cannot go into.
Case of ending this,
remember what happened to Abu Mazen when he tried to get Gaza Strip. Remember what's happened to him. He cannot, because let me tell you again and again, it's not a part of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It's not at all.
No, it is a part, because
it's not a part. We're fighting terrorists. We're fighting terrorists.
is
They're recognized as a terrorist by Europe and America and Australia and Asia, wherever you want.
But you
they are
can't,
terrorists.
You don't
You have
understand.
the Palestinians have been captured by terrorists. This is the problem.
No, if
Let me take the civilians out of Gaza Strip for 2 weeks, and then we'll see.
We can't.
And then we'll see.
Can't just get these.
You're hypocrites. You know that.
Out of Gaza
you
Strip.
know. You know that most of the population in Gaza Strip.
You must think
most
about
of the population in Gaza Strip,
reality.
You call
the reality.
Innocent, involved.
The reality
very
is different.
Involved.
The reality.
I just want to join to this talk with us, Kevin Wade. Mr. Kevin Wade, you are running for the Senate from the
state of Delaware.
For the state of Delaware. Thank you very much for coming to our here small studio. Of course, from the United States.
I've never seen a better vista and view than I see
than here. There is a restaurant here called Vista. Mr. Wade, you know, you've been visiting here Israel
for several days.
For several days now. What are you experiencing?
I came here to form firsthand impressions. I'm running for the U.S. Senate. I've been very sympathetic to Israel and the people of Israel throughout my entire life. However, some things can't be understood by reading a briefing book or looking at a PowerPoint presentation or seeing a carefully produced video. In my experience in life, it's best to get firsthand impressions. So I took this trip with support of some friends here in Israel. And as soon as I arrived in Ben Gurion, I was asked if I'd like to meet some soldiers. So that was something I was looking forward to do. I wanted to meet some political figures, some business people, and some soldiers. And got into a car. I was asked if I'd like to get up close to where some of the action is taking place. And I ended up spending the last 2 nights up on the frontier. And I still have Gaza sand on my boots. And until this afternoon, the only meal I'd eaten was meals with IDF soldiers. I didn't get an impression. I got a carving that's going to stay with me for the rest of my life. The men you have wearing your uniform are doing the work of civilization there by taking on the worst terrorists in the world. The same terrorists, not by uniform, but by belief and by actions, that kill my people in my home, that have injured my soldier friends who wear the American uniform. The work there needs to be done. Your soldiers that I've spoken to say we don't make political decisions. We're not permitted to make political decisions, but if we had a choice, we want to see this job be finished.
So allow me to...
what do you mean finished? Sorry, I'm asking you. What do you mean finished? Please. Can you go further?
Well, I take that to mean to remove the military capability of Hamas, so they can no longer threaten
in this point
the people
exactly,
of Israel.
in this point exactly, and I want to talk with you, and I want to make your life a little bit difficult. The United States just signed an arms deal with Qatar, $11 billion. Qatar is supporting Hamas, and this we know. Explain to me this paradox, because from one side, the United States is a good friend and a big ally of Israel. From the other side, it's signing a deal of $11 billion, an arms deal of $11 billion with Qatar, which we know that is supporting Hamas, which became maybe the second enemy for Israel after Iran. How does it work?
I'm from a political viewpoint in the United States that disagrees with the actions of our president and our commander-in-chief. I truly believe that his actions have been harmful to Israel. I believe they've been harmful to peace in the Mideast. And most importantly, because I'm an American citizen, they've been harmful to my own country. So I cannot give you a rationale except to say that weakness and indecision do not make a foreign policy.
If you think that there was a different administration, do you think that still the United States will give up such a big deal?
No, I do not. And I believe in about 2.5 years you'll see a change, but it's very important for the people of Israel to understand they may not have the close friendship and support they've always experienced for the next few years. So understand these things so that you can do what needs to be done standing without America being at your side so closely. But the American people are not separated from the people of Israel. We have a leadership problem it's temporary.
And we know that there is that the Palestinians are also relying on the Americans. The Palestinians are also looking for the support of the Americans, and basically the Israelis and the Palestinians tried to negotiate peace. They couldn't get to it. They couldn't yet. They couldn't get to it after 9 months. God knows how many meetings and how many flights Secretary of State John Kerry took to this region. Is there any hope after this kind of operation, Mr. Ajrami?
I think this operation shows us that without ending the conflict forever, we can't reach any solution even for this problem of Gaza Strip and the war between Israel and people in Gaza Strip. Because we were in this round before in Gaza and between Gaza and Israel, and I think we will be in another round maybe within a few months. No, if you speak about the Israeli goals to destroy the tunnels, Hamas can reopen the tunnels after a few months.
No, we can prevent it.
No, you can't. You can't do it. You can't do it. You know, this is not the solution for the problem in Gaza Strip. I think it is now opportunity for all of us.
You accept the fact that the Hamas, as a terror organization, going to stay forever in Gaza Strip?
No.
So
no, not at all.
So
Hamas can't continue controlling Gaza Strip
Hamas out of Gaza Strip.
Any peace solution.
Let's go together, take him out of Gaza Strip.
I think it is opportunity now.
The question is, will the Palestinian, and I have to pass this broadcast to my fellow at the Jaffa Port, but the question is, will each and every government, will the Israeli government and the Palestinian government, after these bombardments, after these operations that we're experiencing for the last years, will sit down. Background noises. Will sit down and think, really, each and every one of these governments about the mistakes that it did. And I believe that the Palestinians have a lot of thinking to do, as well as the Israeli part, of course, and Benjamin Netanyahu. God knows that Benjamin Netanyahu will have a lot to think about after this operation. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming here and for being with me for this part. And we're going back to you, Meredith, in the Jaffa Port.
Thank you, Lucy, for these interviews. We will be coming back to you shortly. But we're back in the studio here. We were talking about the reserve soldiers, another 16,000 being called up. Dr. Hoffman, does this represent possibly a lengthening of the operation?
Well, this is up to the cabinet. I hear from our ministers, it's not a secret, that all the options are on the table and the cabinet decides with the developments of the situation. So I guess that the army prepare all the different scenarios or answers for different scenarios according to what the cabinet instructs him to do.
And it's something that Lucy mentioned in that interview just now, the word reoccupy Gaza. This is a word that's been popping up here in Israel a lot, and some people believe that this is what has to be done in order to ensure that Gaza is demilitarized. What is your party think, the Yesh Atid party?
No, well, Yesh Atid party, let's differentiate between two issues. One is a long-term policy towards the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. My party and myself, we support two-state solution and so on and so forth. But let's put it aside, because at the moment we're in the middle of a military operation. Now, the cabinet came up with some decisions, some resolutions, what is needed to happen in order to end the military operation. And of course, it's first and foremost to bring the security and the quiet to the people of Israel. Now, if the military operation will demand to enlarge the operation, even on the ground, I think it's up to the cabinet, but it's an option and it's one of the scenarios that could be decided upon. But again, it's all up to the cabinet and to the way that the cabinet instructs the military, the IDF.
Thank you for this. And we will be getting back to this topic, but today does mark the 24th day of Operation Protective Edge. So far, no ceasefire is on the horizon, and Israeli troops are continuing their search and destroy mission, looking for more tunnels in the Gaza Strip. I-24 News correspondent Shachar Peled sums up the day.
As Israel's Operation Protective Edge entered its 24th day, Thursday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered the military to press on with the offensive in the Gaza Strip, focusing on the destruction of Hamas tunnel network.
So far, we neutralized scores of terror tunnels, and we are determined to complete this mission with or without a ceasefire. Therefore, I won't agree to any proposal that will not enable the Israeli military to finish this important task for the sake of Israel's security.
Throughout the day, dozens of rockets were fired at Gaza bordering regions and southern towns and cities in Israel. 2 rockets were also intercepted above central Israel, and a residential building in the southern town of Kiryat Gat was directly hit, resulting with 2 civilians injured, one of them hospitalized in serious condition. Earlier, an IDF soldier was lightly wounded by sniper fire shot from inside a mosque in Shujaiya neighborhood. The IDF responded with tank fire, destroying the mosque. 5 Palestinians were killed overnight and early morning on Thursday, as Gaza officials say thus far at least 1,372 Palestinians, most of them civilians, have been killed and nearly 7,000 wounded. 56 Israeli soldiers have been killed in Gaza clashes and more than 400 wounded. Earlier today, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Navi Pillay, accused both Israel and Hamas militants of committing war crimes.
I say we cannot allow impunity. We cannot allow this lack of accountability to go on. I mean, every legal system, every justice system in each one of our countries is based on the principle that to avoid a recurrence of crime, you investigate, prosecute, and punish.
Despite the international alarm over the rising civilian death toll in Gaza, the Israeli Security Cabinet approved continuing operations in the battered enclave, as the Israeli military said it had called up an additional 16,000 reservists in order to allow the military, quote, room to breathe. In the absence of a deal, Israel has ordered its ground forces to focus on its tunnel-destroying mission, as both sides failed to reach an agreed-upon truce.
And we go now live to the Gaza border, where our correspondent Ellie Hockenberg is standing by. Ellie, what's the latest activity from the area?
Well, Meredith, until the political level will decide whether this operation will deepen its activity or will be ended, the activity of the IDF forces inside the Gaza Strip continues, as the main mission was and remains to expose more and more underground tunnels, rocket launchers and other ammunition. And according to a high-ranked IDF official, the IDF is aware of about 90% of the underground tunnel, and by now had destroyed or caused severe damage to 80% of the underground terror infrastructure. Without a doubt, a significant damage, and according to the estimations in the Israeli security establishment, after this damage, the situation now in the Gaza Strip takes Hamas 5 years backwards. So Hamas will have to deal with a lot of damage caused after this operation will be over. Furthermore, the security official says that according to Hamas tactics, it's safe to assume that their main mission is to kidnap an Israeli soldiers. So the IDF is learning a lot about the Hamas strategy, both inside the Gaza Strip and from the forces along the border. But all throughout the day, we can see a heavy activity in the Gaza Strip. So as for now, the operation continues with full power, and there's no sign for any relaxation. And we'll, of course, keep you updated with any development from here, Meredith.
Ellie, thank you for these updates from the Gaza border. And we were speaking of the possible expansion of an operation and the possible reoccupation of Gaza. Amir, you had some comments regarding that.
There are several points which beg a rejoinder. First, regarding what Ellie reported, even without advancing further into Gaza, there is a mortal danger for soldiers there, and this is the mortar shells raining from above with no warning. And we have just heard that in the Eshkol Regional Council there was another such attack. So they should be very careful about it. Now, Ronen Hoffman is a distinguished member of the Yesh Atid party. Yesh Atid obviously means there's a future. if Israel reoccupies Gaza, there will be no future.
Right.
There will be occupation, there will be Gaza on Israel's hands, and there will be no future for Israel. So the cabinet, including the Yesh Atid ministers, does not really consider it as a serious option. Regarding the Senate hopeful from Delaware, it's really heartwarming to hear the American support for Israel. However, the most recent public opinion polls show a very, very worrying trend whereby most of the youth, most of the Americans under 30 are against Israel rather than for it. Most of the black population and most of the Hispanic population. And American demography is changing, and Israel cannot take American support for granted.
And all over the world, I mean, we're seeing this trend of anti-Israel rising more and more and more. But I do want to get to the diplomatic side. Ali, where do you think the Cairo initiative will lead?
Meredith, in the beginning of this operation, the Israelis were so proud from the very firm position of the Egyptians vis-à-vis Hamas and vis-à-vis the condition of a ceasefire. Now we are seeing a picture in which the Egyptians have a more firm position than the Israelis, and this can paralyze the Israeli space of maneuver if the Egyptians continue to insist not to talk directly to Hamas and trying to exclude Hamas from any arrangement. This is one note, and so this pride of Israel should be dealt in a very careful way in order to convince the Egyptians to be part of the solution and not to be part of the problem. For the moment, the Egyptians are doing everything in order to turn their own initiative as something that is not relevant or that's something that cannot contribute to a long-term arrangement. This is one thing. The second thing, in order to exterminate Hamas, to get rid of Hamas in the Gaza Strip, there is a need that the three players, Palestinian Authority, Israel, and Egypt, share the same vision vis-a-vis Hamas. One player, the Palestinian Authority, via Abu Mazen, 2-3 days after the operation, changed totally the narrative, adopted Hamas narrative. We saw today Saeb Erekat accusing Israel of war crimes. We saw Yasser Abed-Rabbo, who is the biggest rival maybe of Hamas inside the PLO and the biggest critic of Hamas, adopting Hamas narrative, accusing Israel of war crimes and expressing PLO readiness to represent Hamas demands, and not only Hamas demands but the military wing of Hamas demands.
So that's kind of a first in its own regard.
Now we can see Hamas is very weak on the ground, not on the military level, because on the military level we can say that in this asymmetric war Hamas have some achievements. If we are talking in pictures of victory terms, Hamas have more pictures than the Israelis. It is true that 2-3 days after the ground operation, everybody saw in TV the massive destructions of Gaza. It was not the massive destruction of Hamas. It can create later questions among the populations against Hamas. But when I asked a Hamas guy today, are you worried of the reaction of the population in Gaza? He told me, Ali, I will tell you something. Hamas military wing, with the Islamic Jihad, with the other people, we are 50,000, almost 50,000, according to foreign media, like we used to say in Israel. In the Gaza Strip, there is 1.8 million. All these 50,000 are parts of this 1.8. We are members of these families of the 1.8 million. So our families won't turn against us. I don't think it is. So it is not maybe the most scientific thing, but on the ground there is a problem that the mediation of the Egyptians is doing very bad, is doing very hard. Hamas feel that it has more cards to play, and Khaled Mashal today is taking his time in order to meet Saeb Erekat. He's not in a hurry. The military wing of Hamas is not in a hurry. They believe that the scenario that is most probable is that Israel Israel will announce in the coming days a unilateral ceasefire, which will allow Hamas to say we were the victorious. Israel announced the ceasefire. Now the question is whether Israel will keep this perimeter of the tunnels even after declaring the ceasefire. And this maybe I want to hear Amir answer.
Israel is not going to keep the perimeter or even enlarge the 300 or 400 meter de facto security zone, which it keeps west of the border, west of the fence. It doesn't allow perpetrators to get as close as 300 or so meters from the fence. It will not do it after it demolishes the tunnels, because it will then be considered an occupying force. It doesn't want to be put in this legal or diplomatic position, and it doesn't have any need to, because it will go back to its positions and strike again if the need arises. It will not stay in Gaza and become a target for terror acts. Israel got enough lessons regarding that in Lebanon.
And Meredith, one last sentence. At the beginning of this operation, we said that Hamas is seeking for legitimization after its isolation, its strategic isolation. Hamas was seeking for some international legitimacy, and we see that Robert Seri, the envoy of the UN, is talking directly almost to Hamas. The Palestinian Authority, Abu Mazen, made it clear that after this round of confrontation, the reconciliation process will be relaunched between Hamas and Fatah and the PLO. And the thing that the Hamas is now putting all their efforts is to trying to change the Egyptian position. If the Egyptians will declare that they will be ready to reconsider their relations with Hamas, it will open and it will give horizon for not only for a ceasefire but for future arrangements.
Yes, I have to disagree with some things that Ali just said. First of all, I doubt if the population in Gaza, if the people in Gaza really volunteer to be used by Hamas as human shields. I think they are under terror. Hamas is a terrorist organization. I think the people who suffered from that terror is not just the citizens in Israel here, the population in Israel, but it's also the population in Gaza. The people in Gaza are not our enemy. We are not fighting. Israel is not fighting the people in Gaza. Israel is fighting the Hamas terror organization. And I have to make this very, very clear. So when we talk about the support, and Ali understands, of course, in the Palestinian society more than I do, but I really find it hard to believe that the people in Gaza support the way Hamas, the leadership of Hamas,
They say support, but they won't go against
because
Hamas.
they are. If they will not
support Hamas.
Okay, so if they won't go against Hamas, it's because they are horrified, because they are under terror using by Hamas.
And Hamas will use force against people in Gaza if they feel that they are being threatened. I mean, this has been documented.
They also used force and terror against the PLO in Gaza when Hamas took over Gaza and became the ruler in Gaza.
And we've seen public executions. I mean, really, really violent things happening. But I do.
May I rise to the defense of Ali?
Sure.
Ali made a.
Thank you, Amir.
You're welcome.
You
may regret it when
You're allowed to disagree. Yes, Amir.
Ali made a valid numerical point. We talk about 1.8 million Palestinians in Gaza versus 40 or 50,000 Hamas members and members of other organizations. But every family in Gaza has 6, 7, 8 members. So you must multiply those 40 or 50,000 by from 6 to 8, and you get between 300,000 and 400,000, which is a very sizable portion of the 1.8. The same applies to the 43,000 or so salary. Those who are not getting their salaries, public servants in Gaza who are waiting to be paid, and whose salary is going to be one of the big concessions that Israel and the others will give to Hamas in order for the population to get some relief once this is over.
And the suffering and the destruction in Gaza has been mentioned of innocent civilians. And Dr. Hoffman, how does Israel address the situation of innocent civilians being killed? I mean, over 250 children have been killed. How does Israel deal with that?
It's very unfortunate. Israel does its utmost to avoid hurting civilians. But the problem is that, as I said, the Hamas is using the people in Gaza as human shields. And our army, IDF, is warning the civilians before we attack a house, for example. We only attack a house if somewhere in the house are terrorists or launchers of missiles. So, unfortunately, the responsibility of people getting hurt in Gaza lies with the Hamas, of course. Unfortunately, they use their own people as human shields. We are trying to avoid it. We are trying to warn the population, but it's Hamas' responsibility for it.
And staying on a similar topic, 16 people, including women and children, were killed overnight in shelling in the Jabalia refugee camp in the Gaza Strip. As the IDF investigates the incident, the U.S. and UN have condemned the attack, the latter attributing it to Israel. I-24 News correspondent Shachar Peled has the story.
Harsh condemnations from both the United States and the UN were heard in response to the shelling of a United Nations school in the Jabalia refugee camp in the Gaza Strip overnight, which killed 16 people. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon added that the shelling had reportedly come from Israeli artillery.
Women and children were asleep in what they had been assured was the safest place. I condemn this attack in the strongest possible terms. Nothing justifies such a horror.
Some 3,300 Palestinians were taking refuge in the school when it came under fire around dawn, as the number of refugees across the Gaza Strip reaches 400,000. According to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, the school was attacked 3 times, despite its precise location being given to the IDF on a number of occasions. However, the agency reported that for the 3rd time in 2 weeks, it found that weapons had been stored in one of its Gaza schools.
We do condemn the shelling of an UNRWA school in Gaza, which reportedly killed and injured innocent Palestinians, including children, and UN humanitarian workers. Of course, we would also condemn those responsible for hiding weapons in United Nations facilities in Gaza as well.
Israel says Hamas is ultimately responsible for the casualties because its fighters, including rocket-launching squads, operate in densely populated residential areas.
The IDF does not target UN premises. Over the course of the night and in the early hours of the morning, there was mortar fire that was launched from adjacent right near that school. The IDF did respond, and we are currently reviewing the tragic outcome of this event. We haven't ruled out at this time the possibility that it is actually a Palestinian mortar fire that had landed in the school premises. Over the course of the last few days, we've seen several attempts on behalf of Hamas to pin internal problems on Israel.
Earlier this month, the United Nations launched an internal inquiry into human rights violations that may have been committed by Israel during its military offensive in the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, both US President Barack Obama and the UN Security Council have called for an immediate ceasefire to allow relief to reach Gaza's 1.8 million Palestinians, followed by negotiations on a more durable end to hostilities.
And we go now live to our reporter Jonathan Regev, who's at the Soroka Hospital in Beersheba. Jonathan, what's the latest on the status of casualties there?
At the beginning of this day, there were 30 injured soldiers here at the Soroka Hospital. This number is now increasing. We're hearing of the incident with a mortar shell in one of the areas surrounding the Gaza Strip. We're hearing that 8 soldiers were brought into Soroka Hospital this evening, so a total of 38 soldiers so far hospitalized here in Soroka Hospital in various different degrees, some of them in a serious condition, others moderate, and most soldiers here are lightly injured. As for the city of Beersheba itself, it's been a relatively quiet day so far. 1 siren in Beersheba this morning at 8:30, and let's remember, this is a city that was accustomed to 6, 7, 8 sirens per day recently, so relatively speaking, of course, this has been a quiet day in Beersheba so far. Let's just hope it stays this way.
Yes, let's do hope. Jonathan Regev, thank you for these updates. And Amir, as we just heard, some of the soldiers that were evacuated to the hospital today were hit by mortar fire, I believe, shortly before this program began this evening. And it's the second case in which soldiers have been hit. These are soldiers on the border on the Israeli side. And in the last case, 5 soldiers were killed. Now, some reservists are criticizing the army, and they're saying that we're coming down here out of our, high-tech jobs or what have you, and they're not being briefed. They don't know what to do if there's a siren. I mean, what's happening? Who's protecting these soldiers on the border?
There's nothing that can be done if you are hit right next to the border. There are various staging areas further away from the border, outside of mortar range. But some soldiers have duties right on the border fence, and in that they have no more protection than some of the civilians who live there, or some of the agricultural workers. The military is aware of that, but unfortunately some of them are being hit because there is hardly any warning. It takes only 3 or 4 seconds for a mortar shell to get from there to here. And this has been one of the features of this campaign, that almost 20 Israelis were killed, and of course dozens more wounded.
Soldiers and civilians?
No. 20 Israeli soldiers. There were also 3 Israeli civilians, but 20 Israeli soldiers out of the 56 killed altogether were killed on this side of the border, on the Israeli side. This is unprecedented. They were killed in defensive positions, either by the Hamas infiltrators coming out of the tunnels, or by mortar shells and rockets on the border. And this is something the IDF will have to look into seriously when the campaign is over, because this makes families and other soldiers believe that it could have been avoided.
Yes, that's absolutely right. I mean, I believe some of the soldiers who were killed were sleeping when it hit the post. I mean, they're so close. It's just, what can protect you? Just pray?
These are details I'm not aware of, but you don't have to be sleeping. Even if you're just sitting there in a tent, having a briefing, or having a meal, or going over your duties, preparing for entering the Gaza Strip, the mortar shell discriminates for or against no one.
The unbelievable thing about it is that the Israelis who live along the border with Gaza, inside Israel, they live like that for more than a decade. Right. This is really unbelievable. I mean,
but if you go to a village, you have bus stops and other public places which are protected. And if you hear the code red alert or a siren, or you hear the sound of the shell itself, you can find some shelter. In an open space, of course, you're left to your fate.
Exactly. And we are hearing reports now of John Kerry and Ban Ki-moon have called for a 72-hour ceasefire. This is a new call. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, most probably Hamas will reject this call. Hamas, in any case, when the world ceasefire is not accompanied with the world blockade, Hamas will not agree, or at least promise an international engagement that talks about the lifting of the blockade will follow any ceasefire. Otherwise, Hamas would not accept. Hamas, if you watch the Hamas media, they are watching the Israeli media. They are following the analysis that talk about the hesitation inside the Israeli government, about the discussions between the political level and the military level about whether to continue or not to continue the operation, how much, how long time, etc.
But what is Hamas really trying to achieve? What is Mohammed Deif trying to achieve?
Let's start from the beginning, Meredith. Hamas has nothing to lose. Hamas is fighting for its future. Hamas is fighting for its existence. Hamas is isolated. Hamas has no supporters in the Arab world, among the Arab states. If we take Qatar and Turkey, which is not an Arab state, Hamas are fighting for their existence. And this is why Hamas believes that they are stronger than the Israeli side just because of this idea that they have nothing to lose. This is a war to be or not to be for Hamas, and this is why they are allowing themselves to reject any ceasefire initiative. They believe that the population in Gaza is stronger than the population in Israel, that if this campaign will maintain, there will be a time where the Israeli population will stand against the continuation of the operation, although we are seeing the polls that show that the results are opposite, and that more than 90% of the Israeli population is with the continuation of this operation. But Hamas believes that what they think are the military achievements on the ground need to be translated on the political table, on the negotiations table, improve the position of Hamas negotiation teams, and of course to be part of the credit when the blockade of Gaza will be lifted, or when there will be some measures that aim to allege the life of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip.
Netanyahu can accept even unilaterally a 72-hour ceasefire because it would synchronize his thinking regarding the demolition of the tunnels and then going out, with two exceptions. First is the demolition of the tunnels. Israel is not going to stop it during these 3 days. And, of course, intercepting rockets. The returning fire, when you are fired upon, only when soldiers on the ground are in danger. But Israel can live with no retaliation and no initiative on the ground for these 72 hours.
And Dr. Hoffman, we do need to finish soon, so perhaps last comments. You're in the Yeshatid party, as we've said. There is a future party here in Israel. Does your party believe that Netanyahu could have done anything differently and should have done anything differently?
We are in the government in order to make sure that, to begin with, we were in the government, we got in order to make sure that the peace process continues with the Palestinians. Now we are not there at the moment, unfortunately. We are now fighting terror organizations. There are two different things. Right. We are now completely support the policy of the cabinet. We need to continue. We need to make sure that Israeli citizens will not live anymore under rockets and under threat from terror tunnels who are digged by the Hamas.
So your party fully supports the current operation?
Of course, we are supporting it completely.
I see. And Ali, any last comments?
Now the question, Meredith, will the Israeli government take this opportunity to try to isolate Hamas also in the Palestinian population, and to launch a serious political process, serious negotiation process with the Palestinian Authority, or will go to an interim security arrangement in the Gaza Strip, which will bring what Minister Ashraf al-Ajami from the Palestinian Authority said to Lucy, that Hamas will redig these tunnels, and the next round will be in 1 year or 2 years.
Well, we will see how this all unfolds. Ali Waked, Dr. Ronen Hoffman, and Amir Oren, thank you all very much for being here this evening on this panel. And we are going out to a short 2-minute break. Be back soon.